Okay, hello again. It's Friday afternoon, the JoJo Show. It's number 28, 28 for those who don't habla. But anyway, we're coming at you with the hottest topics north of the tropics, globally, nationally, locally. Right in the white elephant in the room, it's 17 days left to the college football season. We're going to do some SEC talking and squawking tonight on that. Globally, you got the Hong Kong protest, the Epstein mystery. It's not a mystery to me. Red flag laws, the recession, no worries. China trade war. They won't let the two Quad Squad members into Israel. Figure it out. They hate the Jewish state anyway. At least that's what they said here. Nationally, NFL and Jay-Z are merging to make the NFL a bigger conglomerate, I guess, than what it is. Little Joe, what do you think about all that?
Wait. Do the Jay-Z thing. What's going on?
NFL this week and Jay-Z are merging together. Jay-Z's Rock Nation is combining with the NFL to bring about social activism through Jay-Z's music prowess, a rap mogul, that is. I'm glad they call him a mogul, not an artist. But anyway.
So Jay-Z's going to be talking about the Federal Reserve, chemtrails.
Everything to help society.
No, wait. Hold on, Joe. So Jay-Z is going to be talking about... No, I'm just asking the question. Did he say what he's going to be talking about? Because Here's the social activism that needs to go on now. Let's talk about the pedophile rings for the elites.
Yes.
Let's talk about the geoengineering, which they call chemtrails,
right.
Better known as chemtrails. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve and how we don't need it. And let's talk about fentanyl coming from China flooding the streets. So come on. And so if you're going to do social activism, do that. Because if you're not doing any of those topics, then it's not real social activism. And what's up with the NFL? What are they now? I thought it was a football game.
Yeah.
I could have swore it was a football game.
Well, that's social activism to reach through the cities, and then he's going to be monitoring and probably programming the entertainment front for the Super Bowls and everything else. Through music, he's going to reach the populace. Well, anyway, so much for that.
Does anybody, seriously ride around listening to Jay-Z anymore? For real? I mean, and if you do, listen, to each his own. But for the most part, does anybody really ride around rocking Jay-Z?
Isn't he P. Diddy?
Jay-Z, P. Diddy? No, man.
Okay,
no.
Well, that's how much I know.
Okay, let's move on.
Anyway, Dr. Mark Segal came out today. I guess he's some kind of forensic autopsy psychologist or whatever. He said, suicide for Epstein? It looks more like homicide. He had a lot of broken bones in his neck, so it doesn't lean towards suicide anymore. That correction center, 24-hour surveillance is a circus. Guys off shift, not shift, guys who weren't supposed to be there, people sleeping, logging in overtime, not checking on the poor guy. And I'll say poor guy because he's dead. Or is he dead?
No, well, it's just Corbett Report. If you check one of the links below, Corbett Report had a whole hour devoted to just the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it's got some really informative stuff. First of all, they got that guy, Dr. Michael Baden.
Yeah.
If anybody knows who Dr. Michael Baden is, then red flags pop up everywhere for that guy.
He's the coroner for the stars.
The lawyers, Epstein lawyers, fought for some very weird things right before this happened, okay? They wanted Michael Baden, if he died, after his death, to do the autopsy, okay? They fought to get him off a suicide watch, okay? At the MCC, where he was being housed as, there's no there was a total camera glitch, like an hour or 2 hour camera glitch. They moved him to another cell, if I'm not mistaken, like a day before or a few hours before or something like that. The Corbett Report kind of breaks it down. Now, this is just, I ain't gonna say speculation, but this is just people putting things together that you can read pretty much anywhere on the internet. There's people posting on anonymous sites. There's people saying, there's people posting stuff, he's dead at this time when the news broke 2 hours later. There's people saying, I know he's already dead. Like I said, and then this story breaks.
And then
2
I
hours
know
later.
he's not dead.
Yeah, and then we know no, they switched him. So it doesn't matter anymore. And we said this last show, he is out of the picture. Whether he's dead or alive, he is now out of the picture. Let's move on. But I will say one last thing. First of all, go watch the Corbett Report thing. There's plenty of other links that you could look at if you do watch that. But I will say this. I found out today, and I'm pretty sure he was one of these, that Epstein was both, somebody back me up on this, Epstein was both, check this out, Joe, on the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission.
Never heard that, but boy, was that a story.
Wow. So if that's true,
Yeah.
then if that really is true, then yeah, he's not dead. Or if that really is true, then yeah, they murdered him in his cell. I'm sorry. As far as my theory goes, there was no suicide there. There was no suicide there.
Look, and another thing, he was so into everybody's wanted to him and smooched up to him for the money and the all the money and everything, the charities he did. He was even so heavy into cryogenics, they even say, that he might be frozen somewhere and shipped off to Mars or whatever, and then he'll come back the same old 66-year-old guy, time travel. But anyway, that's another story. Listen, I just want to get down to what they said they found in one of his apartments they just raided. There was a picture of old Bill in a red dress, or no, a blue dress with red shoes on, and you just don't know, but we ain't got time for all that. I never had really.
It's on our Instagram page. I'll admit, last couple of weeks, I have been slacking a little bit on the Instagram page. Sorry, that's on me. But I'm beefing it up again. By the time you're watching this, you'll have past shows, clips. You'll also have the photos. The photos are up there right now, but you'll have the photos that he's talking about if you haven't seen it already. Bill Clinton, to me, the thing that stands out in that creepy photo they supposedly pulled from, it's not a photo, I'm sorry, it's a painting. It's a painting by an artist.
Painting they found in Epstein's apartment.
Epstein's apartment, a $56 million apartment in New York. So look, the most concerning thing about that painting is the fact that Bill Clinton has red shoes on now. When Pizzagate broke, I didn't even know what the red shoes meant. So apparently it's worse than that.
Okay.
Apparently it's some type of thing called the Red Shoe Club, and what it really means, if I'm not mistaken, now this all came out of the Podesta emails and people making sense of the Podesta emails. Here it is. It means child sacrifice.
Oh.
It means child sacrifice. So listen, you have your homework. Go find out what the Red Shoe Club is and why he's wearing those red shoes in that painting. It's very creepy.
Okay. All right. I think the whole thing is creepy. It looks weird. It looks stupid. Anyway, we got other things to talk about. Let's see. There was about 1,300 pounds of weed found floating off the coast of California. Surf's up. What can you say about that? I thought it would get through the Baja California through San Diego. What's it doing out in the ocean?
Why do people need to even go to those links anymore if it's recreational on the West Coast? All of the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California. Why do people even need to go to those links anymore? I don't understand. I don't. There's more to that story, but if you're buying bud or whatever in California recreationally, they have plenty of growers that come all over from California. Why do you still need that?
I don't know, but I mean, if I'm surfing, or if I'm out there on, in the Pacific Ocean, and I get in the water, and then I come up with a pound of weed or two of weed, I'm not going to tell anybody whether it's recreational or not. But that's them, and that's happening in California. Listen, I'm going to rat-a-tat-tat you because we're going to get down to the SEC and college football. That's right around the corner. That's going to take precedent here pretty soon, almost every weekend. But listen. The red flag laws, do you know what they mean? Red flag laws, do you know the precise definition of it?
Oh, you asking me?
Yes, sir.
I couldn't verbatim rattle it off the top of my head. All I know is that your neighbor can call you and say, oh, man, or somebody somewhere can say, oh, man, that dude's a conspiracy theory, man. He might go ballistic one day. And the cops can pretty much come to your house and, kick your door in and say, look, we're going to go ahead and take your guns just in case you want to do something like that one
Right.
day. That's how I interpret it. That's why I say any law, any gun control law is unconstitutional and it's not good, because we all know that these mass shootings are all false flags. If you're an informed listener, if you're an informed watcher of the Joe and Joe Show, now you've been informed that there's plenty of things that don't add up in all these recent mass shootings. And even if they were real, the gun deaths in America still don't even come close to tobacco or auto accidents or
Opioids.
alcohol or opioids or whatever. So if you're going to go at the point I'm trying to make is that gun laws aren't going to solve the problem, and it's just another infringement on your rights, your American God-given rights to take your freedoms away and eventually take your guns away so they can ride roughshod on you. And
That's it. I mean, you got it in a nutshell. And I'm going to rat-a-tat you. We're going to do it like Jeopardy, but I'm going to rat-a-tat you. And what I'm saying is that your neighbor says you're a red flag, and you're over there conspiracy, or you're out there screaming and hollering, vote 2020 and all this stuff. And he's going to say you're a red flag, and then they're going to come over here and knock on your door. They may shoot. First, they may put a drone in your backyard while you're barbecuing and listening to loud rock music or whatever the case may be, because you're a red flagger, and then they're going to come and shoot you and your wife and your kids, and then they're going to ask questions later. Well, I thought he was a red flag. Well, you know what? He was a nice guy every now and then, you know, but he did play that rock music loud, you know.
And who is to decide? If you're a threat or not? See, that's
that's what I'm saying.
But
you're a threat.
But not only that, it's totally like bypassing any due process.
Right.
It's take the gun first.
Yeah.
Take the guns first, and then have your day in court later. I'm sorry, that is unconstitutional. If
I don't have
that is not America. That is another country, and that's somewhere else. And speaking of another country, let's jump on the Hong Kong thing.
Yeah, what is that all about? Come on, give it to me. Don't just give it to me straight, factual. What is the Hong Kong protest all about, little Joe?
Here we go.
Tell the public.
Now, you know that I don't just talk out of the wazoo. You know I actually went or I know about it. Okay, why? Here's a question. I'm going to answer my own question in a little while. But you out there, I'm going to give you some time to pause the video, and you could go look it up on your own. Here we go. Why did Britain have a 100 or 150-year rule over Hong Kong anyway? All right, pause the video. All right, now we're back. Why did Britain have a 100 to 150-year rule over Hong Kong anyway? Do you know, Joe?
No, I don't.
Because China lost the Opium War. China lost the Opium War. You see, back in the 1830s, 40s, 50s, or whatever, the British East India Company were getting opium, raw opium from India, and importing it into China, and it was a thriving business. Now, you got to think, even back then, China had millions upon hundreds of millions of people. So what they were doing, they were getting rich off the drug trade, basically, all the way back then. And so China figured it out. They were like, oh, you make a nation of addict. And so, so Britain was like, well, that's just how it is. And so China got all mad and say, oh no, we cut this off. We need country back, So, and they're actually, the British were dealing with, they call them the Qin dynasty or whatever, Qin. So the point I'm trying to make is that China went to war with Britain because China didn't want Britain selling and importing opium into their country anymore. But it was the elites back then that wanted to keep the trade growing. So what did Britain do? They went to war with China. China did something to try to stop the opium flowing into their country. And Britain didn't like it because it was hurting money. So they sent their military, they sent their navy, they beat them. And then they tried to do it again. That was the first Opium War. And then they tried to do it again, and then they beat them again. So eventually, they settled on to terms like, okay, you have this, but we get to keep Hong Kong for 150 years or whatever they came up with.
I got you.
And that's why the British ruled over Hong Kong. That's why Hong Kong is Western influence. Now, if you're still with us, thank you. And we're going to run out of time because we got to get to football. So here's the crux of the whole matter. There's people that are in their late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, early 40s that's all they've ever known. That's all they've ever known is a Western style type of democracy. And when the 100-year rule ended in 1997, China has been slowly pushing the communism, turning it into basically China. And these people see the writing on the wall and they don't like it and they're protesting and they're going to do everything in their power to fight and stop this. But it's a losing battle because there will be another, if this doesn't stop, there will be another Tiananmen Square. If you think that if you think that China is going to listen to anybody outside of China and say, well, hands off Hong Kong and all this BS, and I saw the Chinese protesters waving American flags. Yes, that's great. I wish we could get actual Americans over here to wave and really,
that would be great.
Wave American
Protest
flags
for America
and
one
sing.
more time.
You got people over there that are actually getting forced communism down their throat and seeing everything their parents had, everything they've worked for all these years going to hell in a handbasket, being taken over by communism, and they're waving the American flag and they're singing our national anthem. And you got idiots over here that came up with freedom and they're kneeling for the national anthem.
Yeah.
So what's up with that? So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is if you think that China's going to let that go and just sit by and let that happen, you're dead wrong. They're going to move the military in there. They'll go house to house, street to street, arrest people, put them in jail, and Hong Kong will basically be part of China. And the people that are going to suffer are the people of Hong Kong and the financial part of Hong Kong, which Hong Kong is a mega center of finance in the world. It's up there with London, Frankfurt, Paris, New York, New
York, especially. Okay, that was that. Okay, we're going back to question the column over there. Joe, how can you allay my fears about this recession talk?
Well, I personally... I know I got on here about a month ago and said, prepare yourself for the coming recession. But if there is a recession, I don't know if it's going to be that bad. And a lot of the recession talk I saw yesterday was a lot of hype, was a lot of like, oh my God, it's going to hit the fan. But the numbers, I watch business stuff every day. I watch the stock market.
The numbers were up today. I know that.
But the numbers weren't there as far as like, oh, it's dead set. A recession's coming. Dude, there's always going to be some type of, correction or recession coming just because that's how market cycles and economics works. But I tell you who's messing everything up. Not just in the United States, but worldwide. Because the whole system is a scam. It's the central banks around the world, the European Central Bank, Japanese Central Bank or whatever. And in this country, we have a central bank, and it's called the Federal Reserve. And that's what's messing everything up. And that's why we as Americans got to quit all this squabbling about all this BS that doesn't matter and focus back on what's really ruining the country. And I guarantee the Federal Reserve is at the heart of it all because they control our money supply. They set monetary policy and stuff like that. And we've told you about this before, but it's okay. I'll tell you again. This Federal Reserve was an unelected banking cartel that basically took over the economy by sleight of hand, and they duped Congress into doing it or just forcefully just did it one day, but it had been coming. It had been coming. So educate yourself. But I have some audio from the man himself, Ron Paul, on Fox Business today, mind you. And guess what he's talking about? He's talking about the Federal Reserve. So we're going to go ahead and get to that right now. Hold on to your hats. Here's Ron Paul on Fox Business.
This is my opinion, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with it. It is central banks around the world that are creating this financial mess because they're printing and printing and printing non-stop. I know you're with me on this.
Yes, that's true, and I think that includes everybody because it's a system that's unworkable. You know, fiat money doesn't work very well, and you end up with problems like the whole world is facing today. And they're not going to go away until they address the subject of monetary policy in a much more fundamental way.
I think I've asked you this before, but look, you've got negative interest rates in Europe and in Japan. It's the world turned upside down. When does this end? How does it end? And does it really end in tears?
Well, you know, the Fed has a lot of control, and they manipulate interest rates, which I complain about because I don't think anybody should be doing that. But to look at the inverted curve and all of a sudden say, well, if the Fed had done this or that, I think the inverted curve, I am not the expert on this, but I think that's market driven. I don't think you can tinker with a few Federal Reserve policy and change that. So I think I look at the low interest rates as a price. You know, if you go down to 1%, you're paying a lot of money. You know, so the price of the bond is very, very high, and you're not going to earn anything for it, and now you lose money for it. So I would say this is where the inflation's been going. The debt is the problem that we have in the country. It's facilitated by the fiat system. We get a free ride in a lot of ways because we have the reserve currency of the world, and that's why we're doing a bit better than the other countries. But it is something that isn't curable by tinkering. I think when Trump wants to do something with interest rates and move down faster, and then say, well, get rid of the inverted curve, and then you have Powell saying, well, let's not go so fast. They're really tinkering on the edges. They're not dealing with the fundamental problem of fiat currency and central banking, which facilitates big government, and it's unmanageable, and it ends badly. It's been known throughout history how this ends. It's not a good scenario, and I think we're just seeing the cracks in this system, but it's going to get worse.
You know, there is a new school of thought which says we've found a way to pay for all these costly social programs all around the world, and it's painless. We just print money and nothing happens. We just keep on printing, keep on paying, keep on doing these cradle-to-grave welfare systems. Nothing happens, everything's fine, just keep on printing. What do you say to that?
Well, they call that modern. I say that's old-fashioned. And we're involved already, and they are going to do it because there's no political appetite for doing what you have to do. So if we moved in my direction, you'd have to sort of cut back on spending. You'd have to cut back on the welfare system, on the empire. All these things would be cut back like an individual or a businessman would have to. That's not going to happen. I mean, we're addicted to this system, so that won't happen. And I think the people who are saying more and more and more, they'll probably have their way because there's no real resistance. I think Republicans and Democrats, are doing a very good job of cooperating with spending. And that's why these budget bills get passed. And overall policies don't differ that much because if you talk about involvement around the world, they both support that. If you talk about welfareism, they support that. The budgets get passed. We get the Republicans in, and Stuart, they don't do a whole lot better than the Democrats. And they might not even do as well because there's too many people wants too much stuff for free, and it isn't brand new. There's just a few bold souls are saying, "Hey, this is a good deal. Let's really do it." And of course, you talked about when this will end. Well, they'll bring the end a lot sooner, that's for sure.
A lot of people are buying gold because they perceive the problem down the road. Would you consider buying any Bitcoin?
Oh, I would consider it, but I don't own Bitcoin, and our foundation takes donations in Bitcoin. And I have a strong opinion about the legalization of Bitcoins and competing currencies because my answer to some of this wasn't to lock the door and close down the Fed in one day. That caused a little chaos. I want competitions in currency. So you would, if you can find one, if you want to go like the Constitution, use gold and silver as money, you have to take the taxes off. It's no capital gains tax and no sales tax and have competition. So cryptocurrencies fit into that category. And the big thing is who's going to be monitoring if there's fraud or not. Yeah. But all systems invite fraud, and that's a possibility. But if it's fraud free, I want them to exist and have an option because I think that will help facilitate the transition, because we're not going to have a transition with the politicians wisely passing legislation and shrinking government. It's going to come with a crash, and you're going to have to pick up the pieces and decide what are we going to do to put it back together again.
Is that Stuart Varney? I like him.
Yeah, Varney and Company. But did you hear what Ron Paul was saying?
Yeah, printing too much money, bringing the interest rate up. I mean, what's that do for us?
But
anybody?
did you hear what he was saying? The point is that it's fiat fake currency. It's fiat fake currency. Like the Federal Reserve, if I'm not mistaken, this is how I interpret it, takes our money or whatever and then loans it back to us at an interest.
Sounds.
Is that what I?
That's what the mafia does.
Is that how the Federal Reserve works? So they take our money that you make,
your
GDP or whatever, gross domestic product, and they take it and then they loan it back to you at an interest.
I guess they make you let you make all your money that you can.
The point is that Federal Reserve controls our money and our money system, and I really don't think they know what they're doing at this point. I think they're just trying to keep the scam going before you piss off enough American people and people get educated to be like, look, we really need let's make it a campaign issue. Senator, where do you stand on the Federal Reserve and its policies? Do you think we still need the Federal Reserve, Senator? Why is this not a campaign issue? Why? And this is how you know the Democrats and Republicans are straight full of BS. Because they're not talking about the Federal Reserve. They're not asking the hard questions that they need to be asking about the Federal Reserve. Yes, some of them are, but it's not enough. We need to drop all this BS about, even immigration. I can deal with the immigration, but all this other BS that the Democrats are pushing, or even the Republicans are pushing, it's wrong. We need to talk about the Federal Reserve and educate yourself how it works. And then you come to the question is, why do we need these guys? We didn't need them before. We didn't, not until 1913 when they took it all over, the country was doing just fine.
Well, to see what, add to what you're saying there, I saw yesterday on Fox News Trump was saying, we're looking to the Federal Reserve.
Right.
What's the problem? Why? Is he just saying that just to appease everybody for votes?
No. He went after Powell. The Fed Chairman Powell. And I remember, I don't want to quote him, but it was something to the tune. He was on Twitter and saying the Fed has no idea what they're doing. And you know what? I believe that. Right. They don't know what they're doing. The European Central Bank, the Japanese Central Bank, all these countries, they're in negative interest rates. So that means if you loan them money, you won't get a return back at all. You're just giving them the money. If you gave them $1 million, you're going to get in a year or so, $950,000 back. They're just going to jack you for $50,000. Yeah. It doesn't. How can you run a system like that? And that's just the thing. You can't, because the scam is over. So that's probably going to wrap it up for our real news. And now, the unicorn show.
Anyway, I mean, those are all rat-a-tat-tat informations that we give you, situations, things, crises that are going on in the U.S. nationally and globally and stuff like that, and we're just trying to stay up on it. So give your opinion, like us, and comment down below. I don't see many comments, but I really don't look for them. I just see how many views we get. But anyway, I
don't even look at that. We're doing this because we know our hardcore fans, all four of you, are out there watching us every time we put a show up, and we love you for it. And that's why we do this, because I told you it was a push to make you the most informed audience and the most informed person, to when you are talking, you'll at least sound like you'll know what you're talking about because you watch the Joe and Joe show.
And when we do the show, it's such a stress relief because we're trying to do this in a family situation, and we are family here. Joe, little Joe, big Joe, whatever, little Joe, his son. But I mean, we're trying to come across to the demographic from California to Florida to Japan, and trying to inform everybody. We care about everybody's situation, just trying to let you know where we're at with it. Maybe can you wake up and see what's going on, what we see. We're not geniuses about it, but we're going to get down to college football. But let me say one more local thing, and I know it's on everybody's mind, and it's going to be a relief. They're going to finally blacktop Sherwood Forest. That is a mess. I go up down Sherwood Forest maybe once or twice a week, and it's just a mess. But the blacktop was stuck in Arkansas on the barges because of the recent Hurricane Barry and then the floods and this and that. So according to Baton Rouge Public Works, they're going to start paving that thing. It's going to take a month. That's going to be a turmoil. But anyway, we'll have it there. I'm sure my old bud Jimmy and other people that cross and traverse that area are going to be jumping for joy once that is done. College football, SEC, LSU. The injury bug hit LSU this past week. I think a couple of key players are down, but they can reload. Alabama, I believe, has lost 2 starters. Texas, I believe, went down with an O-lineman, this, that, and the other, and it's just all a part of the summer camp, preseason camps that go with everything. You just have to reload. You got 5 stars, 4 stars, freshmen, sophomore, redshirt freshmen, juniors that never played, seniors, 5-year seniors. It's time to put them up and reload and go on with the season. We wanted to talk about the SEC. I don't know if whatever you want to call it, everybody knows what it's called here. It's called SEC bias, the way they do it. Alabama bias. What else can you say? Georgia bias. Just the SEC in a whole is always, because of ESPN, SEC network, things like that. You just feels like you're just it's crammed down your throat that it's all SEC. And we live down here. I mean, what else could it be? I understand. When you cross the Sabine River and go into Texas, there's no SEC network. It's either Big 12 football or Pac-12 football coming at you, Mountain Conference football, stuff like that. You will see some SEC if it's prime time, which is generally almost all the time prime time. I don't watch the Paul Feinbaum show anymore. I watched it a little bit. I think he's so biased for Alabama. If y'all can't see that, and if I see it, then I may not be the only dumb one here. But, I mean, I think that LSU football in a whole is always going to be playing second fiddle to Alabama in the West. Now that you have Jimbo at A&M is going to bring that to the forefront. But you have Georgia, who to me is overrated, like I said, with Kirby not so smart. They have a great quarterback. They always have a great quarterback and manager and a top NFL draft running back. I got a text today from a guy when I made the comment that pretty soon it'll just be the top 10 to 15, 20 teams that'll always be in the rankings, the money schools. And one guy said, hey, duh, it's been that way for years. And he's right. It's been that way for years. You see the top 10 preseason rankings are all SEC heavy up until the 15, 16 number down there. I think there's 8, 9, 10 SEC schools in there. To me, I mean, if they're going to get off the scheduling and quit putting cupcakes like most of the people do, play every game in your every team in your conference, or schedule some other big games. I mean, and then I'll feel good about the SEC. But I just want to say one more thing. I know Little Joe's got his take. We don't want to offend anybody, but it's just our opinion. Like my wife said, it's an opinionated show. People can comment, chime in. We did have some comments about our taco tasting. People said that we might have been putting some ethnic racial slurs out there. I don't think we were. That's the way we were raised, and calling people what they are and who they are. We did it with tongue in cheek. We enjoyed ourselves and we had a good time. If we did offend anybody, we didn't do it intentionally. Never intentionally. But anyway, when the SEC is out there and they're cheering, SEC, 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 I think because of Alabama in football, Kentucky in basketball, and LSU in baseball, everybody's saying, what about me? What about me? So when they say SEC, SEC, are you really saying, SEC, because you're cheering for Alabama? Are you cheering for Auburn? Are you cheering for another school other than yours? I think you're just saying, what about me? What about me? And that's basically what I got to say. That's my 10 minutes. Where are you at with the SEC? Yeah, and here he goes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You done? You don't want to? Come on, that one.
Oh,
another 5 minutes.
I'm going to add on to you, but I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Here is Alabama's football schedule. And then, it's going to, I'll make a point or whatever. Anyway, so you have Duke in Atlanta, August 31st. You got Saturday, September 7th, New Mexico State. You got Saturday, September 14th at South Carolina. Yeah. You got Saturday, September 21st at home in Southern Miss. You got Saturday, September 28th, Ole Miss. You have Saturday, October 12th at Texas A&M. You got Saturday, October 19th at Tennessee. You got Saturday, October 26th. I'm sorry, Tennessee, you got them at home. Saturday, October 26th at home versus Arkansas. That's their homecoming game. Then you have the bye week. And then you get to the Tigers at home. Let me say this again. At South Carolina and at Texas A&M. Until you get to Mississippi State November 16th after LSU. Those are your only road games besides the Duke and Atlanta. Alabama travels well. So you're looking at, you've only played, by the time you get to LSU, you're probably looking at only playing one decent team, which is A&M. Tennessee sucks. They're garbage. I'd like to see Tennessee do something. Arkansas sucks. They're garbage. Ole Miss sucks. They're garbage. I'll give you South Carolina. I think Muschamp is on the right track, but I still don't think they're anywhere near they need to be.
No,
to
they don't
compete.
have the talent. They might give you a good game. He's turned into a pretty good coach here, and like I told you last show, South Carolina, according to everybody across the board nationally, has the toughest schedule because they're playing Alabama and all these other teams. I guess they're just mediocre. I think they were 7-6.
Here's why I think LSU's going to win that game. Because, first of all, Joe Burrow. Second of all, really and truthfully, who does Alabama play beside Texas A&M before they get to LSU? Nobody. You could throw South Carolina, so you got two teams that they play both away from home, at South Carolina and at Texas A&M. Then you got LSU at home. So you could potentially be looking at a one-loss Alabama at this point by the time they play LSU. And so the excuse goes, well, Alabama, once they lose and once they're out the playoffs and once they're out the picture, they don't play tough. So they're not going to play as hard because they don't play their players. And, so anytime any SEC team or Alabama loses, well, they just didn't play tough. Their guys, they had partied too much the night before,
Yeah, that sounds like fine
girlfriends had too much hair on their nuts, and that's why they didn't play hard that day. So, look, you're looking at Saturday, November 9th, you got LSU at home. I still, look, I don't care what the season brings. I'm going with LSU that game.
Well, me too. I think they are too. But you said something about Joe Burrow, and that just came up. That's a big, it's a big mystery too, or not a mystery, but it's a big worry. Joe Burrow missed a couple of practices and was a slight injury. Coach O said he'd be out there, and that's the way he's going to be. I talked to Coach Robinson, and he said OJ got hurt a lot of times too, but he made the game. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that if Joe Burrow goes down, I don't think Miles Brennan is the answer.
Is he? I thought he. Yeah, I guess Miles Brennan is still there.
He's the heir apparent when Joe Burrow leaves.
I thought they were high on some freshmen. Anyway, so then you got at Mississippi State, Saturday, November 16th. I'm still talking about Alabama. Then you got Western Carolina, November 23rd. Then you got at Auburn. Then you got at Auburn.
Auburn always beats them.
November 30th. And then you got the SEC Championship. And LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, and potentially South Carolina. And that's why I don't think Alabama's going to be in the mix this year. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. I don't see it now. If they are in the mix, that's pretty commendable. You would have beaten Texas A&M at A&M. You beat LSU, and you beat Auburn at Auburn. And that's why I still believe, you're going to lose and not win the West. And it's happened before. It happened 2 years ago when Alabama lost to Auburn, at home. So at Auburn. So that's my take on Alabama's season right there. If you're a Bama fan, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Here's another thing I want to get to real quick. SEC last year, here I am faced with the same old every year about the SEC, top to bottom, the best conference in America. Yeah, that's your opinion. That's your theory. Let's rattle off. You're only good as your last win. You went in bowl season. if you don't count Alabama, you went 5-5. You know, you broke even. That's good. But against the Power 5, you only went 4-5 because LSU played UCF. They're not a Power 5 school. If you factor in Alabama, Alabama went 1-1. They lost the national championship, so now you're at 6-6, 5-6 against Power 5 schools. And does that sound like the best conference in America to you? Even though, does it really, yes, you have your strong teams, you have your Georgia, and you have your Alabama. I'll even throw an LSU in there. But after that, who really do you have? You got, maybe Florida, maybe Auburn. As far as the stronger teams, you're pretty evenly matched everywhere around because we just rattled it off. Outside of the cupcakes, who really does Alabama play? They don't play anybody. And that's supposed to be your best team, and they're going to kiss their ass all over ESPN and SEC Network.
Yeah.
So then you have LSU schedule, and they do play Texas. But LSU schedule, besides the SEC, is pretty chuckleable. In my opinion, you're only as good as the teams you're really putting into the playoffs and the bowl games you're winning. And you're at a 5-6 against power conferences in the 2018-2019 bowl season. You can't really get up there and beat your chest about, we're the best conference year in and year out. Well, you know what? Year in and year out, you don't win the national championship. Of course, when they put 2 SEC teams in the playoffs, of course you have a better chance than anybody. But that's not going to happen every year, and that's definitely not going to happen this year, especially the fact that Clemson won it last year.
Hey, listen, I had to read the paper the other day. I just read the headline. I don't delve into it. I mean, I don't know if it's biased or whatever. I've just read the headline in the Morning Advocate or the Baton Rouge paper or whatever you want to call it. I always get it for the crossword puzzles. But anyway, it said, Gundy says Oklahoma State could have beat LSU that year if they would have got in. I think it was 2011, 2012. We had the better team. So go ahead, Mike Gundy. Mike has blown so many games in his lifetime. He's worse than Big Game Bob there at when Bob's tenure at Oklahoma. But Gundy had the mullet enough to say that, hey, man, we could have beat LSU. We had a better team. That was on paper, never materialized.
All right, wake up, Tiger fans. Here we go. Auburn's schedule. Now, I'll give Auburn this. They start off with Oregon in Arlington Saturday, August 31st.
Their coach is on the biggest hot seat ever.
Oregon's or Malzahn?
Malzahn.
I would think Auburn would win that game. Then you got Tulane at home Saturday, September 7th.
The Greenies.
Then Kent State. They'll win that game. Okay, so you're at Texas A&M. If you're Auburn, September 21st. That's a potential loss.
Aggies.
Then Mississippi State. You got them at home, but Auburn's the type of team, they lose one, they'll come back and lose another quick.
Yeah, and they'll lose the state. They may beat A&M, but they'll lose the state.
At Florida, October 5th. There you go.
Fight,
yeah,
fight.
that's
Front step, back step, bite.
At Arkansas, okay.
Well, they're going to have a better team this year. I know that because Jeff left them some money. I know he did somewhere.
At LSU, here it is. At LSU, October 26th. So Auburn, starting off the season, could potentially have 2 losses by the time they get to Ole Miss Saturday, November 2nd. Saturday, November 16th, they got Georgia at home, potentially 3 losses. Then you got to play the Bulldogs of Sam Ford, not Samford and Sons, Sam Ford. November 23rd.
Yeah.
Then you got the Iron Bowl Saturday, November 30th.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Auburn with a potential 2 to 3 loss season right then and there. And so being as you play the SEC West, you got to play Alabama, LSU, then you got to play Florida and Texas A&M.
Bye-bye, Gus.
I don't see
it's
Auburn.
Been fun.
I don't see Auburn making it to the big dance.
Sorry, Gus.
Or the SEC championship at that.
Yeah, he's a high school coach, and then you have to move somewhere. Do you know when a head coach moves, they said one story about, we keep forgetting every time we talk college football the past couple of weeks? Mac.
Oh, yeah, he's at North Carolina. Yeah, well, Mac Brown.
Yeah, he's a Tar Heel.
I tell you, I wish he'd have stayed on ABC. He had the good analysis.
Yeah.
I will say that about Mac Brown. I liked him as a sports analyzer.
That's right. Anyway, hot seat, Willie Taggart, Florida State. It's been fun, Will. Let's see. Gus Malzahn. Somebody else. The most important ones, I think, Clay Helton, USC. Even though you gave USC schedule last week, that might be a job for Coach Robinson. Might have to go back. I can't let him go. He's a great consultant. He told me he liked the crawfish over there at Tony Seafood. But anyway.
Yeah, one more schedule from the SEC West before we get out of here. I know, you know, if you've tuned us out, well, at least
That's
you
fine.
know, if you're still here, thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so here we go. The Ragin' Cajuns. This is Mississippi State's, mind you. The Ragin' Cajuns.
Of USL.
Yeah, in New Orleans now.
ULL.
In New Orleans. They're starting off the season in New Orleans versus the Ragin' Cajuns. Okay?
My nephew played for the Raging Cajuns.
September, yeah, I knew a girl who knew a guy that played for the Raging Cajuns.
Well, there you go.
Anyway,
Good.
so check it. September 7th, Southern Miss, okay? Oh, here we go. September 14th, Big 12 SEC matchup, September 14th, Kansas State. Now, Kansas State last year, if you watched that game in Manhattan, they were hanging pretty tough there for a little while, and Mississippi State got a turnover. They pulled away, and that was that. So, look, then you got Kentucky at home. Then you got Auburn at home, September 28th. Then you got at Tennessee, October 12th. Then you got LSU in Starksville, October 19th. Then you got at Texas A&M, October 26th. At Arkansas, in Fayetteville, of course. And then you got Alabama at home, November 16th. Followed by November 23rd, Abilene Christian. I thought they were Division II. And then you got the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. So you're looking for Mississippi State, looking at a potential 3-loss right there.
Stark Vegas.
Maybe even 4. So who knows?
Stark.
So I don't see Mississippi State making it to the SEC championship.
Okay. All right, man, that's plenty of football. I mean, there's plenty more to come. Again, I grew up with the Bama mystique. My dad once told me that Bobby Dodd at Georgia Tech and Bear Bryant at Alabama figured the game for the gamblers, and everybody got rich off of it in the mid-'50s. There's a bit of mystique about Bear Bryant all these years. I got a lot of respect for the man. I read the book. He got the name Bear by wrestling a bear. You got to give your props to a guy like that. But, I mean, Alabama this, Alabama. Saban says this, Saban says that. And now we're going to get bombarded out of the Big 12 when Coach Miles is going to be doing some stuff. You know, he's going to be saying this, and we're going to do what we got to do. And I remember in the SEC when I was coach at LSU and eating grass at Titan. You get the drift? So, I mean, I just want to see some good football. This is the year of the Tiger right here on the Little Joe and Joe Show, Big Joe Show, whatever. They have to beat Alabama to be prominent. If not, they're just an also-ran. That's rarefied air. They're paying the CFP for Georgia and Alabama to be in, and Clemson and whoever else can feed up under there, probably Michigan or whatever. Let those guys determine what they're going to do. But that's our take. Beat Bama. As I said at the disclaimer, beat Texas, beat Bama.
We're way over.
I know.
I'm gonna leave you with the Florida schedule. Miami's in shambles. Florida will win that game.
Yes.
Who the hell is UTM? University of
Tennessee
Martin. Then you got at Kentucky, 9-14. Everything's sucky when you're playing at Kentucky. You got, I want to say, Kentucky beat them in a swamp last year.
Yeah.
Did they not? Kentucky beat them in a swamp.
Right.
Then you got Tennessee at home. Powerhouse Towson at home, 9-28. Auburn at home, 10-5. And then you go at LSU. Come on, Tigers. You better not drop it at home. 10-19 at South Carolina. So that's 2 straight road games. I don't think they're gonna win both of those games. I'm talking about the Florida Gators now.
Yeah.
You got the largest cocktail party in the world, as per Joe and Joe.
Yep.
The UGA, University of Georgia, Saturday, November 2nd. Then you got Powerhouse U, Vanderbilt, SEC, perennial powerhouse Vanderbilt, Saturday, 11-19. Then you're at Missouri, 11-16. And then you round out the season at home versus the Noles of Florida State. And if you're looking at that, if you win that Georgia game and don't drop it to LSU and or South Carolina, you will probably find yourself in the SEC championship.
Well, I think Florida's defense is going to come along. They are going to have Felipe Franks at quarterback, who, LSU outdid themselves last year in the swamp when Burrow threw that one of the only glaring mistakes I saw him do the whole year was when he threw that interception right there at the end. But that's football. It's college football. If you want to talk pro, I really don't have much for the NFL. I'm just going to tell you this. I don't care what level it is, from Little League, and you see it already. A guy from the fencing team at the Peru Games 2019 kneeled, and now he's got a shoe contract, I guess. I don't know what the deal is, but anybody disrespects the USA that got you there, the USA jersey, the privilege that you have to be able to play the sport while all these other troops, Heath, Mendoza, especially over there in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, is protecting what we're here to do, to live and to go by, and to protect our freedoms. And if any athlete wants to disrespect, he has a different form, go run for Congress, go run for legislature, get out there on the corner and hold your protest flags or whatever, but keep it out of the arena of trying to enjoy sports. I had a text back when I said something about the ESPN announcers way off the board. They were, you think we're off the board, and how biased they are. I told them I watch college football on ESPN. I turn down the volume, and I like to listen to music or just mute it and don't listen to anything. And that's the way I used to watch it years ago when it was black and white. Turn down the volume on the announcing and listen to Beatle music or rock and roll music, Jimi Hendrix, whatever. But, I mean, that's what I used to do, and I'll still do it if my wife lets me when we're sitting there watching football.
Yeah,
I'd like to give...
We got to go.
I know. I'd like to give shout-outs to everybody. KT,
make it quick.
Chicago, going to Missouri here pretty soon. Good luck in school. Heath Mendoza, already mentioned him. Love you, man. Little guy, first game, football this weekend down there in Victoria. Shout out to my high school this year starting the stream of football again, and school kids. Drink all your milk and say your prayers. We love you.
All right, see y'all later. See you later. Have a good one.
Peace.